So this is actually a story that is unfolding right now in real time. Over these past few weeks, we've been seeing what's happening in Minneapolis. And so right now, this is getting heated. So journalist Don Lemon, formerly of CNN and now independent commentator, went to the protests and live streams part of what was happening in Minneapolis while reporting on the events that was taking place. That coverage drew intense reactions online, where then rapper Nicki Minaj took to X and blasted Lemon with harsh language, calling him a thug, some homophobic remarks, and demanding that he be jailed, accusing him of disrespecting religion and the church where the protest occurred. Lemon subsequently fired back in his own posts and videos, claiming that Nicki Minaj needed to get a life, defending himself as a journalist doing his job, and accusing Minaj of speaking about something she knew little about, while also calling out the language she used. All right, that's part one.
Okay.
Afterwards, the Department of Justice has now publicly criticized Lemon's presence at the protests, suggesting that he is on notice under federal law for his coverage because places of worship are protected spaces under statutes like the FACE Act, and DOJ officials have indicated potential legal consequences tied to the protest disruption.
Well, so basically what they're saying is that allegedly one of the pastors of the church that Don Lemon went to is supposed to be involved in ICE in Minnesota. So that's why people were going to protest at that church, because he is actually part of ICE. So Don went there to report that. The federal government says they might charge him under the Ku Klux Klan Act,
which is the most bonkers
yeah,
thing you can think of to do right now.
Right.
Like, what?
I have no idea why they would do that. And then you fold in Nicki Minaj, who for whatever reason is, looking up under MAGA and running to Donald Trump.
Because that money is drying up.
Probably, maybe. Is that what you think?
Oh, definitely. Because my thing is and I think she's isolated a lot of people as a result of her marriage, right? Pregnancy, ticket sales going down. It's a pretty easy conclusion to see that she's had a rough few years, probably on the financial end of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing, and I think Don Lemon made a point about this, Nicki Minaj is the last person who should be talking about any of this, especially her homophobic remarks when her husband is a convicted sex offender. She was definitely the wrong person to say any of this, and it was even outlandish for her to say any of this to begin with, right? But why do you think Minaj is taking his coverage? It seems like she's taking it personally.
I think Nicki Minaj looks for opportunities to fight with public figures to get attention.
Yeah, I agree.
I think she injects herself into things that have nothing to do with her. She riles up the barbs and the fan base, which are loyal to her and they're going to love her. And she further drives a wedge in between people that were, passive fans on the fringe and not her hardcore fan base, which those people definitely support you with. It's not the millions and millions of people around the world that used to love Nicki Minaj for the music that she used to create. And now she's throwing herself into this political arena, which doesn't make sense at the end of the day. I think the problem for Nicki is, and one of the things I used to talk about a lot is I said this is probably 15 years ago, I said that it's going to be a problem for some of the current generation artists to actually fade into obscurity and not be the most famous person in the room anymore. Yep. Right? So when you think about it, I think this current generation of creators are trying to hold on to their fame way longer than they need to. And they're just doing tricks and anything to stay relevant when really it's past your time. The internet gives you a voice or a platform, but it's everybody quietly fades into their esteemed position of legacy as an artist, but they're not trying to hog the spotlight. So Usher's a legacy artist. Beyonce's legacy. When you think about at that time, you think about, if you just take Beyonce at the time, but think about all the artists that were famous, if not more famous than Beyonce at the time, that have come and gone. Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears, Nelly, Eminem. All these were artists that were hugely popular. And then when you got into the era of the Drakes, the Nickis, and the Waynes, everybody just doesn't even remain famous forever. Michael Jackson at a point was the most famous person on the planet. But towards the later years of his life, he was still revered as the king of pop, but he wasn't the most popular person that people look to. And so I think she's just holding on to the spotlight. And I think at the same time, she's aligning herself with Trump.
Because he creates conversation.
Yeah, which creates conversation. And who knows? I mean, you saying you think she's getting paid. I don't know. I mean, she could possibly.
There is no way in my mind there isn't an exchange of money for sure. Why would you like alienate your fan base, right? You're, as you said, you're on the fringe fan base, right? Maybe not your diehards. And even I was talking to a friend of mine who is a journalist and was a barb, alienated them. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like you're taking away some of your loyal fans too. Like, it makes no sense to me why she would do this. It makes absolutely no sense.
I mean, well, Don, Don is one of our people.
He's gonna go where the action is, and
he ain't backing down.
Exactly. But he said he was doing objective journalism, not activism. So, in your opinion, where's the differentiator? Do you think he was being more of an activist or a journalist in this situation?
No, Don is always a journalist.
Yeah,
I think he's going to show up to the situation and bring attention to it. I think people don't like that because, again, the administration and the powers that be are trying to control the media. So they don't want these types of stories getting out there because there's been numerous now stories. We had a young boy lose his eye. He got shot in the eye with a rubber bullet. He's blind in one eye for life. We had ICE, tear gas, young black couple in their car with their 4-year-old. I think it might have been younger than that. It was an infant, like months old daughter, and doing all these things. And so they don't want these stories to get out because these things kind of make them look like the bullies that they are and the bad things that they're doing. And they just want to try to control that narrative and that conversation, which is why social media is so important, which is why, being an independent journalist is really, really important as these networks get compromised and get swapped out with people that are loyal to the presidency.
We're living Star Wars right now. These are stormtroopers. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, and what's crazy to me is we grew up, we always sided with the resistance, right? In any of our movies, right? In this metaphor, it's Luke Skywalker versus the Empire. And it's wild to me that so many people are choosing the Empire.
But I don't think people are choosing the Empire. What I think is that in those movies where there is the resistance, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody loves those people.
Yeah.
It seems like in real life, nobody wants to be those people, though.
Exactly.
Like, y'all talk all this resistance shit, like, you know what I'm saying? Like The Matrix and Star Wars and Terminator. When it's time for you to be part of the resistance, people just sitting at home like, me? Y'all want me to get out there and resist? And so I think that, because we're going to need to vote in numbers that dwarf any election ever to actually kind of get out of this swell of, I don't know what you call this, because the things that they're doing right now, this police state energy that they got going on, we're gonna have to come out and vote in numbers that can't be disputed. Like, people are gonna have to win. Like, candidates are gonna have to win elections by 20 points. Just crazy numbers for them to not say that the election was rigged. And they're the ones that are going to probably try to rig the election.
You know what's crazy? Over the weekend, there were sightings of ICE up here in Atlanta, Georgia, in Camp Creek, if you knew that. So that means, we have a large Hispanic population. Do you think ICE is going to make some noise in Atlanta?
I think ICE is going to be the bullies of every city, especially when it comes to election time. Don't be surprised if you see ICE agents sitting outside of polling locations trying to scare people not to come out and vote. Even people that are American citizens who just don't want to feel like they want to be targeted to vote. Think about that. I mean, that's the real, concern that I think some creatives and some people and some pundits have talked about, the fact that they're probably going to try to come in here and shut this whole thing down when it comes to the election. So we better get out and vote. I'm telling you right now, like, these midterms are probably, and I know we say this all the time, that this is the most important election of our lifetime, but the stakes keep getting higher and higher every year, right?
Yeah.
And I think really, like, initially, I think this version of the Trump administration is what people thought we were going to get in 2016 to 2020. This is why they didn't want him to be president, because the person that he is right now is who he thought was coming from 2016 to 2020. But luckily enough, there's enough to slow him down. But now that he's back in, they're running through walls like of laws. They're running through, and they already said like if they don't win the election in November that they're going to jail. They've already said if we don't win midterms, we're going to jail.